war was over. The Nazis had lost. But some of them never faced justice. Some of them got jobs. In the months following Germany's surrender in 1945, American intelligence officers fanned out across a devastated Europe with a very specific mission, not to arrest the scientists who had built Hitler's war machine, but to recruit them, quietly, urgently, before the Soviets could get there first. What followed was one of the most morally complex covert operations in American history. A program so sensitive, so legally questionable, that its very existence was hidden from the public for decades. It was called Operation Paperclip. The name came from a simple bureaucratic detail. The files of recruited scientists were marked with paperclips to flag them for special processing. But what was being processed wasn't paperwork. It was history. It was identity. It was guilt. Over 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were brought to the United States under this program. Men who had, in many cases, directly overseen forced labor. Men whose rockets had been built by concentration camp prisoners who died in the tunnels of Mittelwerk. Men whose experiments had been conducted on human beings without consent. Wernher von Braun is perhaps the most famous name connected to this program. He was the visionary behind the V-2 rocket, the weapon that rained down on London and Antwerp, killing thousands of civilians. He was also a member of the Nazi Party and the SS. And yet, by the 1960s, Wernher von Braun was an American hero, the architect of the Saturn V rocket that carried Apollo astronauts to the moon. The U.S. Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency, which ran Paperclip, was explicitly warned by President Truman that anyone found to have been a Nazi or a war criminal was to be excluded from the program. The agency's response was methodical and chilling. They simply altered the records. Scientific value was weighed against documented atrocity, and in case after case, the atrocity was quietly edited out. Hubertus Strughold, later celebrated as the father of American space medicine, had been named in Nuremberg documents linking him to experiments on prisoners at Dachau, experiments involving freezing, suffocation, low-pressure simulation. He was brought to the United States anyway. He received honors. His name was placed on an award given by the Space Medicine Association, an award that was only retired in 2013, nearly 60 years later, when the evidence against him could no longer be ignored. The ethical bargain at the heart of Operation Paperclip was never truly resolved. It was rationalized. The Cold War was coming. The Soviets were recruiting their own German scientists. The calculus, as American officials saw it, was simple. Knowledge had no nationality, and the arms race had no patience for moral inventory. But the survivors of the camps where those rockets were built, they had a different calculation. Survivors who watched the same men who oversaw their suffering receive American citizenship, military salaries, and national awards. The full declassification of Paperclip documents has revealed the breadth of what was done and what was known. This was not a few rogue officers acting outside the system. This was policy, approved at the highest levels, sustained across multiple administrations. So the question that history keeps returning to is not whether it happened. The documents confirm that it did. The question is what it reveals about the price a nation is willing to pay for technological advantage, and whether that price was ever truly acknowledged.